So, first of all, I hope everyone's doing well with you and your families. And 'tis the season. The agenda today, really, we called it prior to the announcement, or I had plans to call it prior to the announcement from the OUA. It was just more of a chance to get together, see if there's questions, because it's been a little bit. Some of the coaches I've talked to individually, or some on email or text or on the phone, and then just thought it makes sense prior to the break to get together with some questions. So I have a couple of things to go over. Laura's going to go through a couple of things, and then we can jump in with questions. So the first one is the announcement that came up from the OUA, which affects some of you. So that the league will be paused. So that would be league games paused until January 24th. We have not been given any direction on what that means from there. I'm sure there's discussions, but Rolly and I have yet to see anything. So will it continue the schedule with what exists and then drop the games that are missed prior to the 24th and put them in afterwards? Or will there be a different schedule created? We can make assumptions, but I don't know. So I think we've done a pretty good job communicating with all of you once we have the information, and we'll continue to do the same, but honestly don't have any answers. Could make some guesses, but that's probably not doing anyone any good. We then, through discussions with the university, so we looked at our training, because there was a number of teams that were mainly our two-term sports that we're going to start training prior to us being back in school. And so we had time, some of us had times booked on like the 29th, 30th, that sort of stuff. And the decision was made from the university with us to, just with the state of where everything is and not knowing where it was going to go, and wanting to let people know so they could potentially adjust their travel plans, et cetera, to not open the buildings prior to the university being open, which would be January 4th. So the current plan, which you really haven't dug into much yet, but we are, is what is that going to look like after January 4th? Because some of us would have had games scheduled. Obviously, that will change our schedule, especially with travel plans. So all I would ask is for those coaches, mainly it's our tier 2 sports, track and field, or winter sports, curling, our two-term sports. So there are 2 volleyballs or 2 hockeys or 2 basketballs, and our winter sports, to just look at your schedule and make some adjustments for that prior to January 24th time. So as an example, you had a game set on a Wednesday night, so you did not have practice time, and you now are going to want practice time. You can just modify your schedule up until then. We will naturally do that anyways, but we'll work together with you on that. And as of today, the plan is to go into the 4th, but if something happens with public health, therefore through the university, then to us, where we're not allowed to start at that point, then we'll let you know. But as of right now, that's what we're planning. Maybe just, Laura, your stuff kind of relates to this stuff too. So why don't you jump in now, and then, because the other stuff that I have is a little bit different topic. Why don't you go ahead now?
Sure. So along those lines, with us returning hopefully January 4th, like Brian said, as long as public health allows, we will be testing everybody, athletes and coaches, for sure, that first practice back. And then I'm trying to come up with a schedule that makes sense to test everybody multiple times a week. Some teams have experienced that already, so you understand the flow of that and how it works, and the athletes are fairly self-sufficient when it comes to doing that, but I know a lot of teams haven't done it yet. So I imagine I'll be getting my student trainers involved in helping with that process. I don't know where it's going to happen yet, but it will be multiple times a week, I think, when we return, so that we can, I don't know, to the best that we can, stay safe when we're back there practicing. So more details on that once we figure out when we're actually allowed to be back, assuming it starts on the 4th. Kind of on a related note to that, if any of your athletes between now and when we return actually do test positive for COVID, I need to know about it, because we have a COVID return to train protocol, which is really similar to our concussion return to train protocol. symptomatic or asymptomatic, I still need to know about it, whether it's in our buildings or not, because there's a process to get them cleared to play again through the doctors. Another kind of related note, I'm sure you guys saw that vaccines are now open, or the third dose is now open to those that are 18 plus, as long as it's been 3 months past their second dose. So if you can encourage your athletes to try and get their third dose as soon as they're eligible. I know the government site is kind of a pain to navigate. It sounded like the Region of Waterloo site was a bit of a pain today too. There was a lot of people in the queue first thing this morning. But if your athletes are going home to places that maybe aren't as busy, they might be able to get in with a local pharmacy. So I would encourage you to have your athletes look into that while they're gone. And same for everyone else on this call, if you can get your third shot as soon as possible, that's helpful. Just while I have you, this is totally unrelated, but the Alliance Committee has put together a really brief survey that we're trying to get everyone kind of affiliated with athletics and rec to take part in. It takes about a minute to do, and it's just to try and capture the diversity of anyone that kind of falls under athletics and rec. As a full-time staff, we've done the survey. I know football was really successful in getting their athletes to do the survey. I'm going to have Brian send the link for the coaches. We'd like you to send it to all of your staff to do this survey for us. And then we have a separate link to send to your athletes. If you could send that to your athletes once we get the link sent out to you with this recording. It takes about a minute. I think it's 2 questions long, but the Alliance Committee would appreciate everyone's help on that. Any questions with any of that? No? Okay, thanks.
Laura, when you say positive test for COVID, you mean PCR? So if someone does a rapid test and is positive, then they're encouraged to get a PCR. Do you mean that?
You have to get a PCR. If you've tested positive on a rapid test, your next step is to get a PCR test. The rapid test can have a false positive, I suppose. So regardless, you do have to go get a PCR test. And then if that PCR test confirms the rapid test result, then yeah, we're assuming that your athlete or you have COVID. And then we have a whole return to play that you have to go through. Booking PCR tests seems to be a bit of a challenge. It's a few days wait. Now I know in town there's a couple options, whether it's the drive-through at the hospital or various clinics. But if you, public health also hasn't really been doing as much contact tracing because they're busy trying to get vaccines into arms. So if you have been around a confirmed positive, just book the PCR test. Don't wait for public health to contact you. But yeah, if it's a positive rapid test, you do have to go get the PCR test next anyway.
Any questions on all of that, including the stuff I had said with regards to schedule?
Just what's next steps? Because I assume for everybody, student athletes are coming back January 4th. Why would I come back January 4th if we don't know what's happening on January 5th? What's the projection we're looking at here for timeline for next steps? That question isn't even plausible to answer.
Yeah, I don't feel we're able to answer it right now, other than we have what we have. Like I've talked to a couple of guys on my team today that are traveling with that same, the local ones, it's no big deal, but for the ones traveling, and I just said to them, I can't really answer you as of right now. We're on the 4th, but if something happens and if you decide to delay your flight a day, or there's something with testing protocols because one of them is coming from the States, etc. Like I just said, do what you can. Like this is out of our control, and we're not exactly sure what's going to happen. So, but we are planning on the 4th. I can say that we being Laura, Rolly, and Ari, and I end up doing most of the conversations in interpretation of the information from our health and safety spot on campus, and then combine it with the OUA messaging. We talk often, and I have a feeling we'll continue to talk often. I can't see us shutting down our communication, even though there'll hopefully be a little bit of a break, but we will communicate with all of you as soon as we hear anything worthwhile. And as I'm sure all of you will be checking your messages over the break as well. Troy?
Yeah, I'm kind of just curious what the reasoning behind January 24th was, because then maybe that can give us a pretty good indication of foreshadowing of whether or not January 24th is a solid date or not. Like, because last I spoke with kind of Rolly and other coaches who spoke to their ADs, everyone was on the same page. It's like, we're going to try to play. Like, we're going to try, like, if it means testing and this and that, like, our goal is to try to play. And then, and the same conversation that the OUA doesn't make the decision, the institutions make the decision, and blah, blah, blah. And then the information all of a sudden came out January 24th. Do we know the reasoning behind that?
So I don't know the answer. The board made the decision. So the board includes athletic directors, board, OUA staff, and university representatives. And so it's not just purely an athletic decision. So it's representatives from the different areas, including the academic side. I asked Rolly the same question. Why was this decision made now? It seems like it sure is moving in that direction, but why was it made what appears to be prior to it needing to be made? That open discussion did not happen amongst all the athletic directors. It wasn't a call where everyone was on a Zoom call like this and deciding, sure, let's go with the 24th. It was the board has the power within our governance model to make decisions, and they made a decision based on, they'll say based on the public health recommendations. I think there's also an opportunity, I'm guessing some delay in the time to allow some adjustments to be made if need be from a travel side. But I also will remind all of us, because I forget this as well, like I constantly, being in hockey, think of equivalents to us. So the American Hockey League, the East Coast League, the OHL. But remember, we are part of the university institution. So where we fit in is our students in classes, our professors allowed to travel. Can we meet with these people? Like, that's unfortunately where we fit in, even though we get used to comparing ourselves with our equivalents from a sports side. So I asked Rolly, he was going to do a little bit of work to see if there was a more of a air quote scientific explanation on the decision, which he has not received at this point. But that's all I can say is we were not in an open discussion. The board made the decision and we were informed.
Thank you.
Okay, if you have other questions on that after, they may come to you. That's good. The winter term bookings. So this would be, so when we get started, most of us have schedules. I know some of you on the call, Chris has done the large majority, Chris Gilbert, the large majority of the scheduling for a lot of you on the call from Quest. And we know, I guess you've heard it from Chris, but it's probably good to hear it from a different voice. We know that many of you did not receive everything that you requested. I can say this, I'll just take the field house, even though I know everyone doesn't use it, but it's a good example to give you a gauge of the demand, is when the varsity, so the IU field house request came in, there was not enough time in the field house, period, to meet the varsity requests. That's not taking into account anything else that was going to be in there. For example, intramurals, if there was an expectation on any external rentals, et cetera, et cetera. The varsity only request could not possibly be met. And that just gives you a snapshot of what the demand is. And so you can be, I don't know what to say other than we have worked hard at it. We are trying our best to be fair, but there's absolutely no way that anyone will get everything they wanted, because it's purely an impossible thing to do. We could share if it's worthwhile on how we approach it from a decision side. I guess the number one thing is those in season, we try to give more of a preference to. So if there's someone that's using a certain space and they're actually playing league games still, then they do get a bit of a preference. But just to, I guess, reinforce the conversation that Chris has probably had 20 to 30, 40, 50, 60 times. It seems like he It's had a lot, and just letting you know that it's a massive ask, and we already need to build more facilities. From the admissions, Chris, I'll put you on the spot a little bit here. I can comment on it, but I'm sure you can jump in and roll with it. There is an admissions update. Some of our coaches, we had a full-time staff meeting a couple of weeks ago, so we shared some of this information there. But Chris, maybe this is a chance for you to share just a quick overview, I think is probably the best way from the admissions update from our meeting with the registrar. Are you good to do that?
Want me to talk on the chart as well?
Yeah, I think just give the overview is probably the best way.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I guess first of all, I think I've been in touch with many of you about your list to date, some tours. I know that a lot of your recruits are already looking into the letter of intent process. So that's great. To continue to send me your list. The admissions SharePoint site is live and active, and they go on there. And when I tell them that there's an update, they'll go on there and they'll code it from their side of things. Yeah, we've had a number of meetings over the past couple months with admissions. I guess the really good news to share with everybody, and I know I've spoken to quite a few of you about it, and Ryan has as well, is this year, after asking for it for a number of years, is they've come up with an academic chart, an academic standard chart. So all programs, with the exceptions of math and engineering, and I know those ones are always tough ones to begin with, but all other programs, there is a minimum standard that if a recruit meets that with their grade average, they will be admissible. So what this eliminates, and I know hopefully it'll eliminate a lot of frustration from past years, is there was always a moving line every year. Let's just take kinesiology, for example. We always say it's probably mid-80s. You know, one year it could be 87, the next year it could be 84. COVID has really spiked a lot of the programs up and, you know, went up into the high 80s, and there was never really a definitive mark that, you know, we could share with the coaches to say, if you get this average, you're in. Now they've eliminated that, again, with the exceptions of the fact in engineering. So I know some of you have seen the chart. If any of you have any questions about a particular program that a recruit is interested in, circle back with Brian and myself, and we can let you know where that is.
I just say that continue to work through Chris. It's been crystal clear from the registrar that that's the process they want to continue, which we don't have any concerns with any of you bypassing Chris, but just continue to work through Chris with your questions, and he can give you the updates on the standards from the for each program. So just keep working with Chris, but we thought it was worthwhile to share with you. So if you had in your brain that you can't get into kin without having an 85 average, that has changed. So just continue to bring that discussion up with Chris if you have a recruit who's interested. It is not dropped the 60 or anything like that, but we've got a few more percentage points to work with. So if you're someone that has learned how the grades work here, please ask the questions and keep talking to Chris.
Yep, and I'll just add to that, you know, I'll be meeting with admissions at least on a weekly basis, if not more than that. So I know you're gonna have a lot of questions about your recruits, so send them my way, and rest assured they get forwarded to admissions and to the faculty.
So Marissa put in the chat here, just non-OUA events. So Marissa and anyone else, because I have talked to a couple of you that are in sports that are that way, where you have there's kind of non-OUA events that you attend. And the way we've handled it, we being the athletic department, and since I've been in this role and Chris and I've worked together, is we've kind of treated it all in one. We're not looking for a vehicle to, oh, this isn't air quote OUA, so you can go. We've treated it all. If you're doing it representing our team, represent our institution with your program, then it's an OUA event in our eyes. So there won't be any, we will not be supporting prior to January 24th any of those sorts of events. If one of your athletes attends something on their own, which has nothing to do with the university and there's no association whatsoever, that we can't control that. That would be up to them. But if there's anything to do with the university team representing, even if it's not a true OUA event, it won't be supported from our end within the department. And if there's specific questions on that, it's probably best just to reach out individually. But if someone has one right now, feel free to ask. Any questions on anything else?
Yeah, I see DA just had a question there about early offers, which always comes up. As long as grade information is available to admissions, they can make the decision. And I know we're going to we could be here forever, hypothetically speaking, about what is grade information that they deem admissible or acceptable. But just send me the name and we can look into the marks of that particular recruit and see if they have enough grade information to make a decision. Does that answer the question, DA?
Yeah, for the most part, yes. It's more so for those guys who have completed SAGEP, like this December, they'll be done with their SAGEP or done with high school because they might be a grade 13 that just went back for one more semester of school. So they have no more academics to be done as of January. So their file should be complete. So yeah, that answers the question.
Yep, if they're all done, their grade information is there's no more, then they can make a decision for sure.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, from an admission side, and we're hoping that all of us will notice a difference this year in a positive way on how admissions work. Doesn't mean everyone's getting in, but quicker decisions. A few that we feel may have not gotten in the past get in, and we'll have to wait till we assess once we go through it. But it feels like we're in a much better spot than we've ever been, or I don't want to say ever because the grades are higher than they used to be, but over the last 4 or 5 years, this seems like it's probably the best spot we've been in, but we're going to have to see how it goes. And if there's any roadblocks that we haven't anticipated yet, but right now, all the questions we've asked seem like we're getting the answers that we'd like to hear. So we'll just keep them going to Chris. That's a big part of his role over the next few months, is supporting all of us in our recruiting. All right. Well, I know the announcement and not back in a week or so is a cruddy feeling. I feel the same, and all I can say is hope you and your families are well, and obviously cross our fingers that this thing can get under control in the eyes of public health, so that we can get back and doing our sports as soon as possible. If you do have questions, don't hesitate to reach out directly, and do what we can to answer them for you. Meeting adjourned.
All right, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks, Brian. Have a good holiday with the family.
You too, Ben. Cheers.
Cheers.